cried because my baby, she didn't deserve that.
Her son's father, he was the one who said that, she'd done this to herself, and nobody believed him.
This young woman you see here, dancing as if her life depends on it, is 21-year-old Jennia Grimes, a devoted mother of one, a rising star in the dance world, and someone who seemed to have everything to live for. But what you don't know is that moments after her dance would go viral, that very dance would become her death. In the mid-hours of March 27, 2025, started out like any other day for Jennia, a simple drive from Auburn to Montgomery. But what should have been a routine trip would quickly spiral into an unimaginable tragedy. At around 2 p.m., police would receive a frantic 911 call from Jennia's fiance, claiming that she had just shot herself. But what the officers would find at the scene would only be the beginning of a chilling series of events that was about to unfold. Jennia's lifeless body was found slumped in the passenger seat of her car, parked along a quiet road in Montgomery, Alabama. What seemed like a suicide was about to unfold into something much darker. But before we get to that bone-chilling moment that changed everything, let me take you back to where this seemingly perfect love story began, because as we've seen many times, the most dangerous relationships are the ones that look absolutely flawless from the outside. This case takes us deep into the heart of Alabama, a place where the roots of Black excellence run strong and unbroken. At its center lies Montgomery County, a community shaped by struggle, defined by resilience, and rich with stories that echo through generations. Amid this backdrop stands Alabama State University, one of the proud historically Black colleges and universities. For decades, it has served as a place of transformation and a sanctuary for young minds determined to rise above adversity. Within its halls was 21-year-old Jennia, a young woman whose energy, ambition, and spirit embodied the promise of what Alabama State has always stood for. Born on June 27, 2003, Jennia Antoniette Grimes grew up in the vibrant Ben Hill neighborhood of Southwest Atlanta, a place that shaped her into the person many would come to know and admire. From an early age, Jennia stood out for her infectious energy and magnetic personality. She was the kind of person who could dance anywhere, and her passion for dancing was something that defined her. Whether she was performing on stage, dancing in her room, or showing off her moves with friends. But for Jennia, dancing was more than just a hobby. It was her language, her form of self-expression, her way of living. Known by those close to her as Strawberry or Purple Doll, Jennia's vibrant presence was impossible to ignore. She became a social media sensation in high school, her viral dance videos catching the attention of thousands. Her talent and joyful energy eventually earned her a feature on Access Hollywood, a recognition that many young dancers only dream of. But even with the attention and the accolades, Jennia remained grounded. She always stayed true to herself and her roots. After graduating from Mays High School in 2021, Jennia made a bold move to Montgomery, Alabama, where she enrolled at Alabama State University to pursue a degree in criminal justice. It was clear that she had big dreams, and she was determined to make a difference in the world. Her passion for dance continued to thrive as she joined the Honeybee dance team, one of the most renowned teams at the university. Her incredible skills, commitment, and zest for life made her an instant standout among her peers. But Jennia wasn't just focused on her studies and her dance career. She was also a devoted mother, raising her son with all the love and care she could offer. Jennia was a beacon of hope to those around her. Her passion for life, her ability to juggle the demands of school, dance, and motherhood made her an inspiration to everyone who knew her. But, as life often shows, the universe has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. In 2023, Jennia's life would take a significant turn when her path crossed with fellow student Rogers B.B. McLeod Jr. at Alabama State University. The two met on campus, and before long, their connection grew into something deeper. Despite the fact that Rogers was a year younger than Jennia, the two quickly became an item. On the surface, Rogers seemed like the typical college athlete, a talented football player with a promising future, but not quite on the radar of NFL scouts. On the field, Rogers was undeniably gifted. He possessed the kind of speed and strength that made him a standout player, capable of getting crowds on their feet with every play. His performances earned the approval of coaches, and for a time, it seemed like his future in football was bright. But behind the scenes, subtle signs of trouble began to surface. At first, their relationship appeared to just be another young love story. Two students navigating the challenges of college life, pursuing their dreams, and balancing the responsibilities of parenthood. But those who knew Jennia best started to notice a change.
The spark in her eyes seemed to dim. It wasn't just the pressure of school or the exhaustion. There was something more. Something was wrong, and no one needed a soothsayer to know it was Rogers. In 2024, Jennia gave birth to her son, Rogers McLeod III, a joyful milestone that should have marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She returned to campus soon after, determined to juggle both motherhood and her studies. Despite the sleepless nights and the weight of responsibilities, Jennia pushed forward with a fierce determination. She shared with her friends that she was determined to walk across that graduation stage in August 2025, even if she had to carry her baby with her. To the outside world, Jennia was a young mother juggling the demands of school and life, but for those who knew her well, her dedication was never in question. Her son was her everything, her motivation to keep pushing forward. She wasn't living for herself anymore. Her dreams of law school, her career aspirations, her academic goals, all of them were now for him. However, as time went on, Rogers's darker side began to reveal itself. His behavior towards Jennia took a much more dangerous turn. The relationship, once full of hope, became a prison as Rogers grew increasingly physically abusive toward her. But Jennia, ever the fighter, knew she had to seek a solution. She began to confide in her family about the violence she was enduring. Her mother, Angela Grimes, recalls how her daughter was resolute in her decision to break free. She had finally found evidence on Rogers's phone that he had been cheating on her. This discovery solidified her decision. She couldn't stay in a relationship like this, not for her sake, and certainly not for the sake of her son. Jennia's courage to leave Rogers wasn't just about escaping an abusive relationship, it was about building a future for her son, one where he could grow up free from fear. She knew that she had to move on, not only for herself, but to protect the future she had always dreamed of. But the road ahead would be far from easy. It may even cost her life.
On March 27, 2025, just like every day for Jennia, she was on her way to campus, sitting beside her boyfriend, Rogers McLeod Jr., as they made the drive from Auburn to Montgomery. What should have been a routine, quiet ride quickly turned into a nightmare. At around 2 p.m., tragedy struck when Jennia's life was suddenly and brutally cut short. The incident initially appeared to be a suicide. According to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Rogers had made a chilling 911 call, his voice filled with urgency and distress. He told dispatchers an unsettling story. Jennia had shot herself in the passenger seat. The first responders rushed to the scene, but they were too late. Jennia was airlifted to a nearby hospital in critical condition, but despite their best efforts, she was already gone. She was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. But this was only the beginning of something sinister at play.
Atlanta family is devastated by the death of their daughter, and now the Montgomery County, Alabama Sheriff's Office has launched an investigation into the death of Alabama State University student Jennia Grimes.
Grimes was a proud member of the Alabama State University Honeybees dance team.
At first glance, everything pointed to suicide. Rogers, in his statements to investigators, painted the picture of a devastated young woman grappling with financial stress. He claimed that during their drive, Jennia had become emotional and, in the midst of a breakdown, grabbed a gun from his car's center console and shot herself. But something about the scene didn't sit right with the authorities.
Her son's father, he was the one who said that, she done this to herself, and nobody believed him.
As the investigation unfolded, inconsistencies began to surface. Rogers' story seemed increasingly difficult to believe. Questions started to mount. Why would Jennia, so full of life, take her own life just like that? As investigators dug deeper into the case, Rogers' story started to fall apart. Police quickly began to unravel the cracks in Rogers' story. What he described in interviews did not match the evidence investigators were piecing together. His timelines shifted, his explanations contradicted themselves. But worst off, the digital trail on his phone would paint a far darker picture. One of the most chilling discoveries came from the device itself, a video Roger had recorded in the immediate aftermath. In it, Jennia was slumped lifelessly in the front seat, blood soaking her clothes and pooling around her body. But there was one problem. No one saw the weapon. The same weapon he claimed she had used was not seen in the video. In another clip, investigators saw the gun awkwardly propped on Jennia's shoulder, positioned in a way that no experienced detective could mistake as unnatural, staged to mimic a self-inflicted wound. The autopsy delivered the final blow to Rogers' narrative. Forensic experts confirmed that Jennia was right-handed, but the fatal bullet had entered from the left side of her head, a physical impossibility if she had truly turned the weapon on herself. Combined with the staged video evidence, the conclusion was undeniable. It was clear this was not a suicide. It was a calculated, cold-blooded murder, carefully arranged to mislead investigators and conceal the truth. But instead of covering his tracks, Rogers' own actions, his lies, his recordings, his staging, became the very evidence that exposed him. On April 4, 2024, just 1 week after the shooting, Rogers McLeod Jr. was arrested and formally charged with capital murder. For investigators, the mounting evidence left little room for doubt. His own Snapchat videos, recorded in the hours surrounding the incident, revealed troubling behavior. The text messages he sent to family members immediately afterwards raised suspicion, their tone inconsistent with someone grieving a sudden tragedy. And when questioned, Rogers' testimony shifted, riddled with contradictions that only deepened the investigators' certainty. In early May, less than a month later, the case reached its first critical stage inside the Montgomery County Court. The preliminary hearing drew a heavy silence from the gallery, where members of Jennia's family sat with grief etched across their faces.
Presiding over the hearing, Judge Pamela Higgins listened to the evidence presented and ruled that the case contained enough weight to proceed to a grand jury. For Roger, the ruling was devastating. The path ahead was narrowing, and the prospects of freedom were fading. He was remanded to custody, where he remains behind bars awaiting trial.
Southwest Atlanta family is devastated by the death of their daughter, and now the Montgomery County, Alabama Sheriff's Office has launched an investigation into the death of Alabama State University student Jennia Grimes.
Grimes was a proud member of the Alabama State University Honeybees dance team.
For Angela, Jennia's mother, the proceedings only confirmed what her heart already knew. She believed Roger was guilty of taking her daughter's life. In the weeks before her death, Jennia had confided in her mother about wanting to end the relationship. She was ready to walk away, ready to reclaim her independence. But Angela now believes her daughter never got the chance. The idea that Jennia would have taken her own life was unthinkable to Angela. Her daughter had been preparing for a performance scheduled for March 28th, an event she was excited about and had spoken of with pride.
Full of energy, as you all just said earlier, super flexible, She was a honeybee, which is a big girl dance line at ASU, but size does not matter. It did not stop her. She was splitting, pirouetting, doing all the things that any ballerina could do, and I think that's what allowed her to really stand out.
She was also the devoted mother of a 9-month-old son, a child she adored and cared for tirelessly. To Angela, the notion that Jennia would abandon both her dreams and her baby was impossible. Instead, Angela was left to wrestle with a cruel reality, that her daughter's life was stolen, not surrendered. The weight of that belief pressed on her every day, a relentless reminder that Jennia's story had been cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. Jennia's death didn't just devastate her family, it sent heartbreak through the wider community. Friends, classmates, and neighbors struggled to comprehend how a young woman with so much promise could be taken so suddenly and violently. She had dreamed of graduating, walking across the stage with her son in her arms, and using her voice to advocate for victims of abuse. That dream was cruelly stolen, leaving behind not only grief, but also a sense of unfinished purpose. On April 12, 2015, Jennia's family and friends gathered in Atlanta to mourn her loss. The funeral service was filled with sorrow and disbelief as loved ones remembered her laughter, her resilience, and her devotion to her young son. The sight of her child at the service underscored the depth of the tragedy, a boy who would grow up without his mother's guidance, forced to carry the weight of her absence. In the days that followed, Jennia's family turned their grief into determination. They pursued justice through the legal system, demanding accountability for her death and vowing to protect her son's future. For them, the fight was not only about punishing the person responsible, but also about ensuring that Jennia's story would not fade into silence. Her case became a rallying cry in the community, a heartbreaking reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind closed doors, even in relationships that appear perfect from the outside. It highlighted the importance of speaking up when something feels wrong, of recognizing the warning signs, and of refusing to wait for change that may never come.
In the end, Jennia's legacy is more than the tragedy of her death. It is the call to action her story represents. A call for vigilance, for courage, and for the protection of those whose voices may be silenced before they can cry out for help.
Anytime something's going on in your relationship that's not right, share it with someone. Don't hold back.
The case of Jennia Grimes is not just the story of a young woman taken too soon. It is also a story of hope, resilience, and the dreams she carried despite the challenges she faced. Even in the midst of sleepless nights and the pressures of balancing school with motherhood, Jennia envisioned a brighter future. She spoke often of walking across the graduation stage, her son in her arms, determined to prove that her circumstances would not define her. Her family, now left with only the memory of her energy, laughter, and love, continues to fight for justice in her name. In the wake of her death, they launched a GoFundMe campaign to help cover funeral expenses and provide support for her young son, a child who must now grow up without the guiding hand of his mother. For the Grimes family, every donation, every word of encouragement is not just financial help, but a reminder that Jennia's story has touched lives far beyond their own. Still, the weight of grief is unrelenting. They cling to her memory, but no amount of justice or courtroom victories can bring her back. That spark, the one meant to shine far beyond campus halls or dance floors, was extinguished. It was taken by someone she once trusted, someone with whom she shared a child, and who may have felt overshadowed by the brilliance of her spirit. What remains now is the legacy of her determination, the love she poured into her son, and the fight her family carries forward to ensure her story is never forgotten. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.